Hey everyone, welcome to the NoochieCast, episode 4. We are now almost a month into the NoochieCast, and I gotta say, it's going well. It's going well. So thank you for joining me today. Today is the week of January 31st, 2020. And so it's the end of January. We're kind of hitting the end of the slow period here of gaming for 2020, hopefully, we hope. And I think we are going to start ramping up. I think, PS4, PS5, launch announcement, whatever, should hopefully be coming soon. There's some rumors of that coming up. Series X stuff should be coming up soon. Games are going to finally start coming out in a little bit. But let's get right to it. Let's go into the NoochieCast, episode 4. Let's get to the news. And this week, for the first time in a while, we actually have a bunch of news to talk about, which is exciting because the first one is a milestone, and that one is for the Nintendo Switch. They announced their sales numbers for both hardware and software at their quarterly earnings meeting, and they've announced that the Nintendo Switch has sold 52 million units, which is astonishing, given that it came out just, 3 years ago, that it sold 52 million units, that it's almost unheard of. And alongside that, they announced that Pokemon Sword and Shield have sold 16 million units, and that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which is its highest selling game, has sold 23 million units. These numbers, I don't think you understand how incredible they are. They're very Nintendo numbers because Nintendo has kind of settled into being the kind of only Nintendo and indie platform because they've kind of stopped trying to compete with Xbox and PlayStation on hardware because they know they're not going to be able to do that. So they've really settled into their niche as a complement to an Xbox or PlayStation where you can play those other whatever games on the Xbox or PlayStation, but you can only play the Nintendo games on your Switch, and people know that, and they come to that for it. And I just think that a game comes out on a platform and almost half of its users own it, and it's not Wii Sports, it's incredible. I just don't understand it. Well, I do understand it, but it's hard to wrap your mind around. And for comparison, the new numbers that they've announced with 52 million units are officially more than the NES sold, which, probably was going to happen anyway, but we're past it now. And it's funny. It's now 4 times more than the Wii U. I believe the Wii U sold 13 million units, 14 million units. Switch is now 52 million units. We are 4 times what the Wii U sold in half as much time. Just, the Wii U, just not great. Not great, Bob. Other comparison is that the Switch has officially sold more units, as far as we know, than the Xbox One. Now, again, I've talked about this before. The Xbox One, shitty launch. Just not good at all. And the momentum wasn't there. There was nothing that they could really do to try to match the pace of the PS4 or apparently now the Switch. And so that it's not surprising that the Switch has outsold the Xbox One, but to do it this quickly in a little over 3 years or a little under 3 years, it's astonishing. But we'll see how that moves on into the next generation. I'm excited to see where it goes next. We assume a Switch Pro is going to come out at some point soon, an upgraded version to just make it better, make it run games better as they start to move into the next generation. And yeah, we'll see where it goes from here. I'm excited for the future of the Switch. There's so much potential there, and I think it's really interesting. Next item is the games with PlayStation Plus and games with Gold have been announced for February 2020. Now, there are 2 main points here. So I'll just list off the games first. PlayStation Plus gets the BioShock collection, which comes with BioShock 1, 2, and Infinite, remastered for PS4. It comes with The Sims 4 and Firewall Zero Hour, which is a PlayStation VR game. Games with Gold comes with TT Isle of Man, Call of Cthulhu, Star Wars Battlefront, which came out in 2004, and Fable Heroes. Now, okay, let's kind of distinguish here. Very, very fucking evidently, PlayStation Plus is a better month. And I want to talk about this a little more as a trend. PlayStation Plus has significantly, over the past few months, had better PlayStation Plus games. Firewall Zero Hour, I believe this is the first month they're doing a PSVR game, which I think is a really cool initiative. Kind of, well, I don't want to make this comparison because, well, you'll see why, but it's kind of like what they did with the Vita, where they started giving away Vita games so that you would have that library. So hopefully you would eventually invest in a Vita. You would have the platform, and when you bought it, you would already have, 6, 8, 10, however many games. I think that's what they're starting to do now with PSVR. Hopefully it pans out better. But BioShock Collection, Sims 4 are two big games. Obviously, BioShock, they both came out a while ago. That's not a huge deal. But just to have names like that in the PlayStation Plus games it's a great initiative for PlayStation Plus to have. On the other hand, games with gold, this is a bit of a trend over the past probably year or so that games with gold have been really, really, really not great. And I think, well, not I think, that I honestly don't understand why games with gold is still a thing. And if you listen to last week's episode, you'll know how much I love Game Pass. And these two things are almost competing with each other at this point. And now, obviously, you're gonna want games with gold. You're gonna want live gold if you want Game Pass, because they kind of go hand in hand with each other. But games with gold has just become pretty obsolete, in my opinion, at this point. Like, they're giving away a game from 2004. Why? Just, like, I understand that, you have games with gold because it competes with PlayStation Plus games. If they take it away, it's super bad optics. Even when you compare it, with just the shitty games that they're giving out, that it really doesn't make sense to me to continue having games with gold. I honestly do not think games with gold will be a thing into the next generation, unless they somehow rebrand it with Game Pass or something like that. But Game Pass is where the real value is. Again, I talked about it all last week. Game Pass is the fucking greatest deal in gaming, and people who don't have it, I just don't understand it. If you like games, get Game Pass. That's period. Good to go. You can turn this off right now. Like, games, the PlayStation Plus games and games with gold, they were great for a while, but now that games are, I feel like publishers have just been more reluctant to put free games on there. Maybe it's just because everyone has PlayStation Plus or Gold at this point, so they're just giving away their games for free regardless. It feels kind of obsolete, kind of a relic of the last generation. And I think if we want to look forward into the next generation and we want to think about where this kind of platform is going to go, it's really going to be Game Pass. And I wonder where PlayStation Plus is going to do it. Obviously, it's on PlayStation Now, and they had their whole rebranding thing a few months ago. But I wonder how much PlayStation Now is going to start competing with Game Pass, and how much this conversation of PlayStation Plus versus Gold, when you look at their free games, how much this conversation kind of turns to that, where you look at the catalog per month or per week or whatever in PlayStation Now compares with the one that Game Pass is getting that week. And I mean, you look at Game Pass's library right now, it is unbeatable. You have GTA 5, good job, memory. No, you have GTA 5, you have every Xbox Game Studios game. So you have every Gears, every Halo, every Forza, every Ninja Theory game, The Outer Worlds. The list goes on. Plague Tale, Indivisible, like I was talking about last week. It's Devil May Cry 5. The list goes on, and I really think it's going to be interesting to see how this conversation continues into the next generation, as Game Pass and PlayStation Now, we assume, will start to have a service like this. As those develop and continue to gain subscriber bases, and the PlayStation Plus games and games with gold kind of, in my opinion, I think they will just kind of taper off. And there might honestly just be 1 month. Like, they don't have to announce it at a conference or something. They could just put it on a PlayStation blog post, or Major Nelson can say it at some point and just be like, hey, sorry, like, no more games with gold. We're just doing Game Pass now. And I would be perfectly fine with that. So, yeah, that's that. Next item on the list is honestly a really cool one that I didn't see coming. I don't know if anyone saw this coming, but people have talked about for a while in terms of these kinds of things, and that has to do with Atari. Now, you wouldn't think I'd be saying that name in 2020, but I'm doing it, and that's because Atari is creating its own chain of hotels. I know, it's like a Mad Lib sentence, but I just want to read a little bit of an article from CNN just about it, because I didn't want to not do it justice. So here goes the article. Atari might be best known for 1970s video games and its money problems, but now the brand is opening its own chain of branded hotels. The first one in Phoenix, Arizona will start construction in early fall and should be finished in about 2 years. The hotels will feature spaces for virtual reality and augmented reality, studios for streaming games, and venues for throwing esports events. A little more down, the article, Murphy described spaces set up with 10 gaming consoles where parents can host parties for kids. She said that the hotels would be affordably priced, but offer some premium options for the people who might want to host a video game slumber party, for instance. And Atari hotels are planned for Las Vegas, Denver, Chicago, Austin, Seattle, San Francisco, and San Jose. I think these sound fucking awesome. One of the things they said is some of them will be a little more retro, some of them will be a little more like Ready Player One, which is kind of like a little out there. I think these are like absolutely insane. I'm super excited. As a business-minded person, sometimes I've thought about hotels changing their business model for a while, in that they want to be more boutique, location-based, and kind of special experience instead of the cookie-cutter, Marriott, whatever hotels. And for someone like me, this is the kind of thing that I want. Like, I want to be able to go to a hotel and like just go with my friends and be like, hey, let's go for a night or two, just play a fuckload of video games and just have the time of our lives. I don't know how people didn't do this earlier, not even just with games, but with other things like it. Like, outside of just being on a beach or being a tropical resort, I feel like very few hotels have kind of taken this this strategy, and I'm getting very businessy right now, but I really like the idea. I think to see Atari come out and do this is just surprising. I did not expect them to do it. I would not have expected to see Atari attached to hotels, much less any kind of gaming thing regardless right now. But yeah, I think this is obviously a ways out. We have a couple of years until the first one is finished, so we'll get probably more updates along the way, and we'll probably forget about it for a while. Hopefully we'll all be alive. But I do think this is a really cool initiative that something like a game manufacturer, developer, whoever could manage to do if they do it right. And I think it sounds really cool. I hope people latch onto it, and I hope it's something that people like and enjoy. All right, next item is a small one. Is The Outer Worlds is coming to Switch. We knew about this a little bit. They'd hinted at it. They'd kind of said, oh, yeah, we'll come to Switch at a later point. But now we have a date. So we're a little over a month away, which is kind of cool that they're just announcing it and being able to release it in just like 5-6 weeks. But yeah, Outer Worlds, I talked about it a little bit in my Game of the Year video, but the Outer Worlds, absolutely fantastic game. It's basically like Fallout, but if you like everything about Mass Effect and you don't like Fallout's problems, they're all fixed pretty much. And yeah, great game. I think it'll be a great experience to have on the Switch, to be able to go on the go and talk to people. Same idea of why something like Skyrim or Fallout are really great, or even The Witcher 3 are great on Switch, because you can just go and roam and do your thing on the Switch. But last news article for the week, and this is an unconfirmed report, just a leak of details for Resident Evil 8. There are just a few details released, or reported, I guess, but they are that the new game, Resident Evil 8, will be first-person again, just like in Resident Evil 7. Resident Evil 7, as we know, was much more horror-based, a lot scarier, a lot more spook than the other games. The other games are a lot more like, I don't know, kind of campy, kind of little weird in tone, but still kind of spooky, but not always really taking itself too seriously. I'd say Resident Evil 7 did that a little more than the others. And then that, so it's taking that first-person mode, and it's returning the protagonist from Resident Evil 7, Ethan Winters, and Chris Redfield, who was in previous Resident Evil games, but is getting a redo with, I believe, Resident Evil 3. Correct me if I'm wrong. But, yeah, I think I played Resident Evil 2 last year. I'll get to in a sec, but I've been playing Resident Evil 7. I've actually never played Resident Evil 4, so it's a game that's downloaded on my Xbox. I've just never gotten around to playing it. So I should hopefully be getting to that soon. Obviously, RE3 is getting a remake that's coming out in next couple of months. So Resident Evil 8, as a series, Resident Evil isn't dead in any sense. You know, you would have thought after 6 it might have been, but then 7 comes out, is incredibly well received, and then 2 comes out and is getting Game of the Year nods in places. This series is certainly not dead, and I'm excited to see where the next one can go when they do a new non-remake title. Last one they did was 7, and that got such good reviews. I'm excited to see where it goes. Hopefully, maybe we don't know when it's coming out. There was no details released on that, but maybe it's coming out later this year as a launch title, early next year as a kind of a launch window title for the new consoles, or maybe it's just, a couple years out, year and a half out. We'll see. But, Resident Evil 8, I think it could be great. And let's move to the next section. What I've been playing. Now, I said this, Resident Evil 7. I have been playing a bit of it. I'm not really far enough in it to say any definitive stance on it. All I can say is I was spooked. I like horror games. I am not good with horror games. So, I'm kind of the worst case scenario there, where I really enjoy them, but they also scare the shit out of me. Even something like Until Dawn, Man of Medan, were really spooky, but then, I don't know, a game like Outcast, I almost couldn't finish because I just couldn't do it. So, 7, great. I'm enjoying it. Seems really nice. Tone, atmosphere, great. I'll report back when I've played more of it, but that's just kind of a primer for the next couple of weeks. The next game that we've been playing, and by we, I certainly mean we, is Fortnite. That I don't remember if I mentioned it last week, but Fortnite has somehow made a resurgence in the community with my roommates and I, and I'm just enjoying the shit out of it. We're all getting back to the point that we were a year or two ago, where we're playing it then we're leaving to go to do whatever we have to do, and then we're coming back and we're playing it, and then we're going to do whatever we need to do, and then we come back and we play it, and then we go to bed. So we're just playing it all day. We're doing squads, we're doing duos, we're doing solos, we're doing amazing things. It's such a testament to how much Epic has been able to keep that game updated and keep the community going. There have been changes in almost every sense of it. Obviously, the map is different than it used to be. The leveling system is a little bit different. We're 99% sure some of the people we're playing are bots, which just shows how bad we are. But we're noticing a lot of the changes that they've made, and a lot of the ways we're enjoying it. Obviously, there are some things we don't enjoy, but to be able to hold on to this one game for as long as they have and still be making millions and millions and millions of dollars on this one game, free-to-play game, is an absolutely incredible feat from Epic. I don't know how long Fortnite's going to be around, but I guess it had its peak. It had its kind of heyday, and now it's kind of settled into a pretty steady popularity, which is still great. They're still making a lot of money from it. They're able to update it as long as they can. Hopefully they're not crunching their workers to death, because I would like that to not happen. And if it means having a lesser game or having to delay some things, that's fine. Please don't kill people. Please don't work your workers to exhaustion or physical lack of health. But moving on from that, little low moment is something I was hinting at last week, because I had an embargo that I had to uphold, to adhere to. But I had a review come out this week for a game called Journey to the Savage Planet. That was a game I was playing all of last week, but I have finished and have written a review on and everything. So I want to talk about it a little bit before we get to our main topic. And I really, really like this game. So Journey to the Savage Planet comes from Typhoon Studios, headed by Alex Hutchinson, who he headed Far Cry 4 and Assassin's Creed 3, among other things, at Ubisoft, and then he left and formed his own thing with this game, or with Typhoon, and then they're making their first game, and that's this. Now, I think this game is it's really, really good. There are a lot of things that it doesn't do great, but I think the core of it really holds up everything to a different standard. And the core of it is, so you're on this planet, you're just sent to this planet, and you're told to explore it and determine if it's habitable for humans. And you go and you're just like, hey, what's going on here? What are these animals? What are these plants? What's going on? Eventually you're told by your echo that there's a tower in the distance, and you're trying to make your way into the tower and see what's going on there. But the core of it is that the tone of it is just super, super funny and lighthearted. The art style is so cheerful and bright and pastel, and it's such a blast to play. The game never, at any single point in it, takes itself seriously. You literally start and you're greeted by your CEO, and he's like, hey, we are proud of being the 4th best interstellar exploration company in the industry, and we don't have a budget, so we didn't really have any time to give you any gear, so you're gonna have to go find everything. And then you're greeted by your echo, who kind of guides you around, and your echo's like, hey, go do your things, and is making jokes, cracking quips everywhere. Even like you have to go into a mode where you have to scan everything to kind of document it for your Typhoon, or I think that's what it's called. No, Typhoon is a studio. What is it called? The Javelin. Javelin is the name of the ship. And when you go into documenting it, and all of the little sidebars that are saying like the name of the thing that you've just scanned and then a little description about it, those are all really sassy. Even like all the character animations, like there's an animal called the puffer bird who just has these fucking just massive eyes, and they just look into you, and they're peaceful creatures, so they're just looking at you and like smiling, and you're like, ah. But anyway, I really enjoyed it. So one of the problems I have with it is that its combat is really not great. You only get one pistol at the start, and that's all that you have for the game. You can upgrade it, and you can upgrade your own weapon or your own abilities, your own gear. But the combat itself is not great. It's really floaty. There are a bunch of enemies you have to fight who are way more active and just moving around than you're able to keep up with them. And the auto aim is not like doesn't do enough work to help you out there. And just the shooting is just not great. And then my other big problem with it is that the last like 2 hours of it just becomes so reliant on that combat, and they lose any kind of exploration or kind of humor and discovery aspect that made the first 10 hours of it so great. They just lose all of that, and it feels so rushed. It feels like they needed to create an ending when you get in the tower, that they were like, we don't know how to do this, so let's just make it like a very standard boss fight, but we're going to drag it out for 2 hours because it's like, we hate you. So that bugged me. The final boss fight just annoyed the shit out of me. But other than that, the world is super nice. It's gorgeous with its art and its animations and everything. I really enjoyed it. And then the like the characters, like I said, are great. All the collectibles you can find they're hidden everywhere. I won't say it's Metroidvania because it's not, but it does have that thing where you get little some upgrades in later places that allow you to get to new areas in the first like I think they're called biomes technically. There are 4 of them, and you'll get something in the third that helps you out in the first, and you can find some new thing. And it's just really cool. It's really well designed. The humor, just, it goes throughout everything. I consistently was laughing. The first thing that came to my mind was that it feels like if No Man's Sky was what we wanted it to be, but like a little different. Like it's hard to say. The first 2 games that I compared it to were No Man's Sky and The Outer Wilds. Now, it's No Man's Sky because it hinges on exploration, and you're trying to find new things, and it's got this really weird art style, or not weird, but like cartoony art style, and very bright colors. Outer Wilds, the music sounds a lot like the Outer Wilds music. The art style, again, kind of is similar to it. It's different from the Outer Wilds because it's very guided, and it's not abstract at all in what it's trying to do. But it did kind of give me those vibes a little bit. But you know, in the end, I really just enjoyed the experience of being able to play through it. I think it was it's a game I kind of wanted more of. Not that it was too short, but it was almost like maybe I was backtracking over some of the areas too much. You get to know the areas really well as you're trying to go back and forth. Yeah, I think that kind of sums it up. My review is up on Gaming Bolt if you want to go hear that, which you should because it's a good review. But yeah, that was a great game. I gave it an 8, if you were wondering. But yeah, that is Journey to the Savage Planet. I am excited to see where that studio goes next. I think that's an interesting jumping off point for the studio, and I think it's looking up. Like I mentioned, there are some problems. It was the reviews were running the gamut from like a 6 to 9. Nice, but I feel like a lot of people generally agreed on the main points of it being really quirky and colorful and cheerful and funny, and the exploration being good, but that the combat was a little not great, and it kind of loses its pacing near the end. I think you go read other reviews too, if you want to, if you're thinking about it. But that was my perspective on the game, and that was kind of what I picked up from other reviewers that I read and listened to. So that's that. And the last one is the main story. Now, this is this will probably be a little bit shorter, but my main story is something I've kind of been talking about for a few weeks now. I think I've actually said it in every single NoochieCast up to this point, but I just wanted to be able to get my thoughts out there because I think it's important, and I wanted to kind of give a little bit of a review discussion on Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Now, similar to Journey to the Savage Planet, I just want to be able to kind of get my thoughts out there. I haven't been playing it because, like I mentioned, I've already finished it, but I just felt like this was kind of the best forum for me to do that. And the other thing is that even though I have not been playing it, my roommate has, and I think I've been able to kind of catch a lot of it, and it's made me really interested again in the game, and kind of made me being able to see all these other things for the second time is just really cool, knowing when things are coming when he doesn't. But yeah, in general, Jedi Fallen Order, awesome. I loved it. I thought it was a really cool game. By the end, I had really enjoyed the experience. But one thing that I do have to say is that I don't think I absolutely stand by where I put it in my game of the year. I think I mentioned it as an honorable mention. That having been able to finish it and stand on it and kind of marinate, that's absolutely where I think it should go, because there are a lot of problems with this game, and I think it so it runs like 15 hours. That was about how long I finished it in. I didn't feel like I really enjoyed it until about 8 hours in. And I don't think that having to wait half the game of a 15-hour game to actually enjoy playing it is a good thing for it. Now, one of the big reasons for that is that the combat was pretty one note until that point. Like, the combat, you have your lightsaber from the start, and you have a couple of the force moves that you can do, like force push and force stop and whatever. But I think it was about the point that I got the double lightsaber that I really actually started enjoying the game. And that point was too far into the game for me to really say that I enjoyed this from front to back, because I can't say I did. But with that being said, when you get to that point where you get past that kind of what's the opposite of jumping the shark? Whatever that is, it's that point. And then you move on, and you're back, and you're fighting everything, and you're a fucking Jedi, and you're powerful, and you're killing everything in one hit, and it's challenging, but it's really fun. After that moment, it was a blast. Like, I couldn't stop playing it. And I think it was almost not unheard of, but a really interesting jump in quality for me, because it was almost night and day in how much I liked the game. But yeah, I think it being a kind of Souls-like open world Metroidvania, rest it, meditation points, and respawn enemies, and do all that kind of stuff it's hard to say it was necessary to me, but I can't complain. And so here's the thing: is I'm just playing through it, and I'm thinking about it. I'm like, I don't understand why it's this kind of game. Like, they don't explain it in the story at all. I think they like hint at it in like one line at the start where he's like, I have to meditate, and then people come back. But that's kind of just saying what happens. But it really works well in a lot of ways. Because the game is adequately hard, and in that, like, some of the non-boss or non-mini boss enemies are kind of annoying at points because they're like, they can swarm you and you can kind of get fucked. But it allows it to become a game where it's kind of centered in places in certain areas, even centered in areas around each planet. And you can fight bosses and everything that are kind of the centerpiece of the story. And honestly, now thinking about it, the first point that I really was like, yeah, I really fucking enjoy this game was the 9th sister boss fight. And this is not a spoiler. You fucking knew it was going to happen. That boss fight was certainly my favorite part of the game. And that was the point where it flipped the switch and it said, oh shit, we're going from a game that I'm really not enjoying to a game I'm absolutely enjoying. And it's weird because it was the hardest boss fight in the game for me, and I was just like, whew. I was up. I kept dying. I died probably 40 times to that boss. Like, I was like, I don't know how to do this. I was like force pushing and force stopping and trying everything, and then like parrying and dodging, and I was over here and over there and over here, and it just wasn't working. And then the next thing I noticed, it was 3 a.m. and I was like, fuck, I'm still fighting this boss. And I'd been fighting it for 4 hours, like, give or take. But I'd been fighting it for a while, and like, I was still having fun, even though I was like, oh fuck, this fucking boss is so fucking hard. But I was like looking back on it, I was like, yeah, I was still having fun. Like, oop, just dropped my computer. Hold on. All right. I wasn't like not enjoying it because it was hard. I was actually really enjoying it. I was just frustrated. And then when I beat it, that was the closest it got to a Souls-like boss battle, boss defeat that I saw in the game. And I think that brings me to one of my critiques, is that it's, like I mentioned, it's kind of weird that it's a Soulsborne game. So, like, in that vein, because being a Star Wars AAA, like, one of the highest selling games, mainstream, kind of appealing to everyone game, it's very difficult for it to go as far as Souls-likes need to go. And that's in terms of difficulty and in terms of level design. One of the main ways you can see this is how frequently you hit meditation points. Like, it felt like I would meditate and then I'd go fight like 6 enemies, like normal ones that maybe I'd die once, but then I'd beat them pretty easily. And then I'd find another another meditation point, and then I'd go fight another few enemies. Maybe there's a rocket launcher stormtrooper, and then I'd find another one, and then, I'd slide down and do one of the 8 trillion slide things in the game, and then I'd find another. Like, it just felt like it was kind of holding your hand in like a baby's first Dark Souls kind of way, but the fun of Dark Souls and the experience of Dark Souls is those games don't hold your hand at all, and that's why they're good. Now, it still is able to hit a lot of the points of having those boss fights, like the 9th sister, even the 2nd sister at the end, which I wrote down on this in my notes, that I was absolutely fucking terrible at this. I didn't know how to beat it. I was legit, like, I was going to turn the difficulty down. There was a part of me that just wanted to stop because I knew the ending was coming. Like, I knew it was the end of the game. But I was like, all right, I'm just going to keep going. Maybe I'll beat it at some point, or maybe I'll come back in a couple days and do whatever. And then literally the next time I fought her, I beat her. And I, like, that was at the same time, like, holy shit, how did that happen? And, like, oh, yeah, like, cool. And get to the ending. But other than those couple of boss fights, there really weren't that many, I don't know, incredible combat moments. Now, the combat is fun in general. It gets annoying at times, annoyingly hard. But that's kind of how it's supposed to be. But I just felt like it was trying to juggle being a Souls-like game and being a AAA game that could appeal to a lot of people. And it's not that it couldn't juggle it well, because I think it juggled it as well as it could have. It's just that combination inherently is very difficult, because the linear, very checkpoint-based, like shooter, whatever, games that are pretty often the mainstream, like Call of Duty kind of games, are very, very, very different from the, like, open, difficult, like checkpoint-based Souls-like games that become, like, they are what you put into them, in that you want to learn the world and you want to begin to, like, understand every single enemy's movesets. Whereas here I was like, all right, it's another stormtrooper, like, cool, I'll fight it. There were a bunch of enemies in there that, like, I never learned their movesets, really. I was just hoping at the end I would be able to fight them, and maybe I would die, or maybe I would kill them however I did. But, like, I never really had the necessity to learn their movesets, because it never really mattered. Because if I died, hey, there was a checkpoint right in front of me. One of the other things, now I am getting into spoiler territory here. I know I kind of already spoiled it, but, you know, the fucking trailer did too. I'm sorry. Why the fuck did okay, hold on. Let me rewind. Why the fuck is Darth Vader in this game? 2, why the fuck is Darth Vader in the trailer? Like, I understand that Vader's a selling point, but fucking Star Wars is a selling point. Why does Vader have to be in the... Like, Vader's not even in the fucking new movies. Why does he... I guess he's hinted at, but, like, why is he in the game? Like, oh, I'm the boss of fucking the second sister. Like, fuck you. That made me mad. I was actually mad when Darth Vader was in there, and it was, like, the end of the game. Because I had gotten to the final boss fight, and I was like, this is the final boss fight, right? Because I knew Vader was in it, because I had seen the fucking commercial. And, like, I was like, okay, where's Darth Vader? And then he pops up out of fucking nowhere. And then the second sister's like, oh, Vader. And the Vader's like, ah. And then he's in it for like 30 more seconds. I'm sorry. It made me mad. It made me mad. I don't know. What are my other notes on here? Oh, it's buggy. Like, I know I'd rather have a buggy fun game than a very polished not fun game. But at the same time, like, I was running into T-posing enemies. I was hitting frame rate drops everywhere. There was one boss fight where the meditation spot was there. It was like the meditation spot, and then in front of it was one long room, and then I had to go through a door area to get to the boss fight. And in that long room, there were 2 enemies that I was supposed to fight. I did not fight them one single time, because every single time I would spawn and I would just run, and they hadn't spawned by the time I had gotten to the door. So it's those kinds of things that kind of take you out of the experience, where I'm like, okay, I'm cheesing it right now, but also I don't want to fight them. And if the game's not going to make me fight them, either intentionally or unintentionally, I'm not going to. Let's see what else is happening out here. All right. Oh, yeah. So speaking on the last levels of the game, there are 2 gauntlets in like throughout the story. There's the one where you're getting off of what is it, Zepho? You're getting off of Zepho, and you run into Mad Midge. Okay, I'll finish the thing, and then I have another point. But you run into Mad Midge, and you're taken into that gauntlet area, and then you have to fight a bunch of enemies, and you're like, where am I? And you got to try to escape, and then the Mantis comes save you. I thought it was cool. I kind of thought it was bullshit when an enemy, like, I almost killed the boss that eventually, I can speak, eventually trapped me and knocked me out and put me in there. I think it was kind of shitty that, like, I was beating the shit out of him, and then he's just like, nope, unbeatable, and knocked me out. But I thought in general it was kind of a cool moment that they could do that. One thing I do want to say is I've now seen that moment happen both when I played it and when my roommate was playing it, and we fought different bosses. This is one thing I'd like to talk to someone else about, or at least like to the developers or something. I fought a different boss at the end of that gauntlet than my roommate did, and I'm a little confused. That's just we'll put a pin in that. I don't know. I would really like to know, but we'll see. That was a cool gauntlet though, because it just kind of twisted your expectations and made for a really fun moment that was kind of off the beaten path and wasn't just going from place to place trying to find the vault. On the other hand, there is a gauntlet at the end of the game, like in the last little area, that I hate. Oh my God. I don't like when games do this, like, okay, well, you're at the end of the game now, so we're just going to send wave after wave of enemies of just trying to kill you so you can fuck off. Like, I believe Zero Punctuation Yahtzee has called this the Shinfuls, the shitty final level syndrome. I'm going to steal that term because this is the Shinfuls. Right before the final boss, oh my God. Just having 5 waves of enemies that just could beat the shit out of you for no reason. You have to start from the beginning every time. It just didn't make sense to me. I know this is blasphemy, but it reminded me of the final level of God of War, where you're doing that same thing and like a bunch of enemies come in. And I hated that one too. I hate this one. I want games to stop doing that. Just give me, like, I could have skipped that entire thing, just gone from like the room before it to the room after it. Let me fight the final boss. I would have been perfectly happy. We're Gucci. But apparently not. In terms of the story, I thought it was really cool. I don't know. I'm not personally the biggest Star Wars fan. Not that I don't like it, although people around me will tell you that I don't. I enjoy the series. I'm just not like I've seen the original trilogy. I've seen the new trilogy. I've seen 3 and parts of 1 and 2, and then the spinoffs I've seen too. But I'm like, I've seen all those ones, but I'm not like all into the lore and everything. It's just not like my favorite thing. But I thought, like, I understood the story. It was pretty straightforward. I think the actual absolute highlight of it were the main characters, specifically Grease. I don't know why. Like, Cal is great. He has kind of personality. He's kind of just like, here's a blank slate to go fucking kill stormtroopers and shit. And Seer, I think, is fine. Like, I don't know. I enjoyed her company. I wasn't like head over heels for her. I love Grease. Even now watching it on a second playthrough, he's hilarious. He's so relatable. He's like Squidward, but like in Star Wars world. And then BD1, obviously, that I just adorable. Yeah, I think that's kind of that. I like on the story. It's kind of standard. It is what it is. Like, you find the vault, then you don't find the vault. The whole seeing Cal's like flashbacks to seeing his master was interesting. Having to fight him at the end, or not at the end, like in that one battle when you're in the vault, was cool. And then seeing like everything that happened to that, I really enjoyed that. Otherwise, yeah, story had some cool moments. Wasn't like my favorite story of the year or anything, but I thought I thought it did what it wanted to pretty well. And overall, like I said, the combat is not, it's pretty one note for the first like 6-7 hours, which I kind of took me out of it. I was just not loving it. But then it just gets really dynamic, really fluid, and really fun by the end of the game, like throughout that last half. So, yeah, that's Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. If you haven't played it by now, you've probably heard something about it, but I just wanted to share my thoughts on it, share what I experienced with it and how I liked it, kind of justify my placement of it on the honorable mentions of my Game of the Year list, and do kind of a mini review discussion within the NoochieCast. So that's going to do it. That'll be the end of the NoochieCast. This was a good one. I'm happy with this. So thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with episode 5 with the first week of February. So yeah, thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.